Thank you. Thank you everybody as well. This is so exciting to see the energy here. I came in quite tired this morning and it didn't take long to start talking with people and start feeling a lot of good sentiments and good moods and of course all these ideas. And so I know that I'm the last speaker before the important awards ceremony. So seeing it's at the end of the day now, I want to invite you all to take a short hypothetical thought experiment with me. This is not going to be something that is unfamiliar to probably everybody in this room, considering the forum, but nevertheless, it still, I think, helps emphasize the purpose of what the Live and Let Live Foundation is trying to achieve. So if you'll humor me for some moments, I would like you to think about a time or some moments in your life when you felt a true sense of tranquility and control and peace, let's say, where you really felt that you were in control over your choices, your resources, and that even though you may have had challenges to solve coming forward or you still had stresses that needed to be dealt with, you knew that you were in control over how you were going to deal with this. And your interactions with other people didn't affect how you needed to make those decisions in terms of any coercion or force. It's quite often that we can feel this way when we're on our own, when we've achieved something that we feel is significant, or that if we're in an environment that we can associate and admire. We can feel this way with friends and family as well. It's less often we can feel this way with complete strangers. And it's even less often that we can feel this way when we're interacting with who we may consider our adversaries in life, or in our careers, or someone is going for the same client or bidding for the same resources as you, or a competitor. And what I'm suggesting is that this feeling of tranquility, peace, and control that you have over your own affairs and your own life and with your loved ones and your peers, if you could feel this with any interaction you have with any other human being. Of course, this is very aspirational, and I have the sentiments that I feel from a lot of the speakers here is that already the Free City movement is embracing this to some degree, and this is exactly what the Live and Let Live movement is also trying to achieve, where every individual is free to pursue their life in any way that they choose, so long as that's done in a peaceful manner. And the way that we encourage developments to make progress towards this idealistic world is through two principles only, two practical principles. And these two principles, again, will not be unfamiliar considering the audience because of the theme of this forum, but they may be packaged in a way that we hope can resonate with some of you or with some people who you're wanting to inspire to come and get more involved in free cities. These two principles are what we call the Live and Let Live legal principle and the Live and Let Live moral principle. The Live and Let Live legal principle is essentially what Sondra had on when he was talking about Liberstadt, the non-aggression principle, or the concept of voluntarism, or that all interactions should be through consent, or at the very least without aggression. Because of this audience, I don't think I need to go too much further into detail on that. The difference between how the Live and Let Live communicates that message compared to how some other or many other freedom and individual rights oriented or libertarian oriented movements is that we're very focused on tailoring the way we communicate that message depending on who the stakeholders are that we're trying to appeal to. So of course for this audience it may not need so much emphasis on what the principle of non-aggression is, but if we're talking to a group of bureaucrats at a local council, or maybe some academics or some workers, tailoring the message so that it resonates with the audience is something that we're very highly focused on. And so that's something that we insist, is that every legal framework or every political institution should be complying with the Live and Let Live legal principle or the non-aggression principle. That's something that we insist is obligatory. The second principle, the moral principle, we subtitle this with essentially it means to be an excellent human being. This is the reason we call this the moral principle, and we convey this as being optional. The legal principle, of course, is necessary in order to have a free society, in order to control your own resources and interact with who you want to, and to have your individual rights protected. But does that go far enough? That society already is beyond what a lot of us are living in now, especially those who don't live in free cities. But just because you can have non-aggressive interactions and you can maintain individual rights in your commercial transactions, and you can be confident that laws aren't going to interfere with those rights, doesn't necessarily mean we're living the best life we can. And this is where the moral principle comes into play, is we try and inspire individuals and communities and organizations to go beyond freedom and the protection of individual rights and to try and foster a sense of excellence in individuals. And really what this is portraying qualities that we may typically associate with stoicism or what it means to be a virtuous human being. Things like being kind to people, having a certain degree of tolerance, being able to reasonably disagree with people who have different opinions than you do. These are things that we think can lift the quality of life once we have protections of individual liberties and our own property rights. This can raise the quality of life even further. And so that's what the Live and Let Live movement is aiming to do, is to make sure through inspiration that the Live and Let Live legal principle is in any legal framework, and that there's a significant amount of promotion of the Live and Let Live moral principle. People are helping each other, they've got proactive communities, that there's a good sense of bonding, and a place where you might like to live. Now, the relevance I see here with free cities is that if someone is choosing where to live, or you're a free city and you're wanting to distinguish yourself from another free city, or you're looking at taking the next step about what to do, how to foster more community engagement and more social activities, this might be one way that free cities can distinguish themselves, because it seems to me that I can be quite confident saying that all free cities are pretty well adhering to the Live and Let Live legal principle, and probably also have aspirations to make it a place where people want to live as well, because it's a nice place where people are interacting with each other in positive ways. And so packaging this message up into the moral principle, we see it helps facilitate individuals and communities being able to say, yes, here is something that we do that actually is spawning happiness and a greater quality of life. And how we do that is through 3 core pillars in terms of what we're actually doing as an organization and as a movement. And conveniently, the acronym of these pillars is A, B, and C. So awareness, belonging, and change. Awareness is what we're doing to promote these messages and these 2 practical principles through education initiatives, producing resources, convening discussion groups. And again, the reason this is important is because we need to focus on how our resources are being produced and delivered depending on what audiences we're trying to connect with, or what audiences our beneficiaries are trying to connect with. And so a big project under that awareness pillar at the moment is a book that'll be published by one of the co-founders of the movement, and it's called Live and Let Live. And but that's had a lot of input from a lot of people who've been involved in the movement. So it's not just one author's perspective. It's gone through a lot of iterations to make sure that it's actually a practical tool to use for legal frameworks and for social well-being. The second pillar of belonging is more about trying to bring a sense of community with people, making sure that people can identify with something positive, particularly with the younger generation or Generation Z, where we see that there's not so often a common cause that they can rally around, at least a common cause that we think is moral, being that you're obeying the Live and Let Live legal principle. And so we want to be an avenue where people can come and connect with each other, no matter where you are in the world, And I see a lot of opportunity for collaboration here and for us being able to promote a lot of the ideas that a lot of you are already doing to do similar kinds of causes. So it's trying to foster networks and grow the message and inspire it that way. The third pillar of change is the more substantive pillar. The Live and Let Live movement is a non-for-profit, it's a public charity registered in the United States. And under its designation with the Internal Revenue Code is to conduct advocacy efforts to influence laws for social benefit. And the way that we approach this issue is not by doing so much legal advocacy or law reform movement ourselves. We may make comments on systemic institutions that are going against the Live and Let Live legal principle, but we wouldn't be an issues-based organization similar to how a think tank would operate. What we want to do is empower others to be able to change the laws in their communities. No matter how remote your community is or how far away you are or what your expertise are, we want to be able to provide resources for individuals who don't already live in free cities to have some power to be able to influence the legal frameworks that are not complying with the Live and Let Live legal principle. So in other words, laws that are committing aggression, initiating aggression. And so that's by providing techniques and perhaps in some cases resources to be able to give people the means to be able to engage with the people who are controlling those laws in wherever they live. And this can be things as well by education on what it means to engage with governments in official consultations or building a grassroots movement and instances like that. So I would encourage you to consider the Live and Let Live movement. I think on the next slide, to connect with us, because how I would promote us to this audience is that we want to do our best to facilitate the types of projects that free cities are doing. So whether that means collaborating because we can send a message that you're trying to send, we can, especially with free cities that are in their earlier stages, try and help you raise that awareness or find the relevant stakeholders. But we also want to be engaging in discussions with you. And so one of the things we try and do is provide or work on solutions with interested stakeholders on governance issues about how can we apply the non-aggression principle or the Live and Let Live legal principle in certain situations. And we also want to be challenged as well. So hearing about the difficulties that free cities may have had also helps us gather knowledge as well. So we're very, very open to really any sort of communication and to build a network and collaborate on that way. I would like to finish by emphasizing that I really am very genuinely filled with a sense of motivation by this forum, and I congratulate the Free Cities Foundation for putting together this forum and all of the supporters and indeed the delegates and other speakers. And the more I'm learning about free cities, from reading the blogs and looking at the websites and podcasts and all this type of thing, the more I see that my values are identifying with the objectives of free cities and those who are supporting free cities. And my values are directly representative as well as what the Live and Let Live movement is seeking to achieve. So I can confidently say that if you do feel that you want to reach out, there's going to be synergy there. And I'm going to be here tomorrow as well, and I would really enjoy any type of conversation. And I really wish you the best for the rest of the conference. Thank you. Sure.
One question, if anybody has, of course. Okay.
Great. Means I did my job properly. Thank you.